Good morning, everyone, and happy Sabbath. You know, when Sister D'Amica asked me to read this mission story, it was about 2 weeks ago. And I had to look at the story and I thought, wow, she chose one that I can truly identify with. You know, a lot of times we hear the mission story and it seems so far away. But this one is something that I think many hundreds of people can relate to in Nassau. I happen to work with persons that had to go through similar experiences, and I was happy to be able to read this story today because I will share this with the groups that I assist. The mission story is entitled Prayers, Plans, and a Pandemic. Amy faced the real prospect of homelessness when COVID-19 lockdown in Melbourne, Australia, caused her husband's company to reduce his hours to part-time. How many people here know of anyone who lost their job during COVID? I know of many. In fact, I have been working in the constituency office in Kalani for years, and 10 years ago, and one of the most common things that people visit the office for is to ask for work. And I always thought, wow, I wish we could help them. The reality is that very often there was no job to give them, but I thought, you know what? I may not have a job to give them, but I can help them find one. And that's what I did. Before we even had WhatsApp, I would email out lists of jobs that I would find in the newspaper or anywhere else, and then I used it as a witnessing tool, because what I always tried to express to them was that this was something that you need to take to God in prayer. Pray about your situation. Put God first in your life, and He will work it out. And while He is working it out, He will provide for you. Amy had faith. Emmy is her name. She had faith. She and her husband, Jonathan, had recently been baptized and joined the Seventh-day Adventist Church. She began to pray for a job to support Jonathan and their 3 sons. Now, you notice what she did first, right? She didn't go looking first. She prayed first. Sometimes people find prayer to be a cop-out, like they say, why are you praying? You need to go look for a job, hang a job. The thing about prayer is that you are now inviting God to be with you while you go through this procedure. He can open doors. He can put people in your space. He can assist you with things that you didn't realize that you could have help with. So you put Him first. You pray first before you do anything else. Several challenges loomed. Emmy did not know how to drive, and the job market was extremely difficult. When she went for the first job interview, she took a friend along with her, and the job interviewer ended up offering the job to the friend. You know what? This has happened in many of the groups I've talked to, not necessarily a friend getting a job, but a situation where they knew they felt qualified and somebody else got the job. And this is what you do when things like that happen. You don't worry about it. Her husband reassured her, if you didn't get the job, it was not God's will, period. And it was not for you. Thank Him. That's what I tell when you pray and you go and you look for jobs and the door is closed in your face, you accept that that was not for you. You don't want anything God don't want for you. Emmy kept praying. As she prayed, she found joy in raising succulent plants. She took selfies with the plants and posted them on Facebook. She joined a Facebook group for succulent plant growers. One day, she was inspired by a video posted in the Facebook group by a plant nursery. I wish I could work with you guys, she wrote below the video. I really love succulents. Where do you live? Came the reply. When she gave her location, the plant nursery wrote back with an invitation to call its director. The man who answered the phone was waiting for the call. Would you like to come to see me at our nursery at 4:30 this afternoon, he asked. Emmy jumped at the opportunity. Of course, she said. She was delighted because the nursery was within walking distance of her home. Now imagine this. She can't drive. And here it is, the job that is closest to her home is the one that God opened up for her, so she could literally walk. Thank you, Jesus. But she wanted God's will to be done. And here's what she said. Lord, if this job is not for me, do something to stop it, she prayed. Who does that? You know, if I want a job bad, I ain't gonna ask him to do nothing to stop it. But this is the kind of faith she had. Not wanting to be late, Emmy left her house at 1:30 p.m. She arrived at the nursery in just 30 minutes, far too early for her appointment. As she waited, she tried to hide in the bushes, not wanting to be seen. But the nursery director spotted her quickly. "Are you Emmy?" he asked. When she nodded, he invited her into his office and he described the nursery's business. Then he introduced her to each employee and showed her the nursery's plans. Seeing her enthusiasm, he gave her a full-time job on the spot. Emmy was amazed that God had used her comment on Facebook to give her a job so close to home in the middle of a pandemic. She and her family would be able to afford to keep their house. One thing I want to mention right here is something I always tell my job seekers. You know that saying, it's who you know? Unfortunately, it's who you know. Very often, you could apply all you want until you actually connect with someone, you never get the job. So I always tell them, you may not know a lot of people, but stay connected. In this case, she went on Facebook and she answered something that she saw so she could connect with someone. Tell everybody in your church you're looking for work. Tell everybody in your family you're looking for work. Your neighbors, your friends. If you go to the food store, tell the cashier you're looking for work. Who knows? There may be a job opening and she could call you, so we need to remember that. Always stay connected, first to the source and then to other people, because that's how people find work. I actually did a poll on my job one day. We have about 50 employees. I went to about 30 of them, and I asked them, how did you get this job? Do you know that every single one, except one person, got that job because they knew someone either on the job or who knew someone who worked there? So you could send all the applications you want. People are usually employed based on favor because they knew someone. If I have a job, a workplace, I want to know that whoever is coming is recommended by someone. You know, I could think of people in this church on my job that got there because of recommendations of persons on the job. So Amy soon learned all and she could fill in wherever she was needed. She enjoyed the variety of work. She also was interested in how the succulents propagated because she wanted to propagate her own plants at home. With permission from the nursery, she began taking cuttings home to start her own collection. Time flew by. As she worked, God had truly answered her prayers, or she thought. On payday, Emmy was bewildered. While everyone else received pay that Friday, she got nothing. When she asked about it, she was told that she would not be paid because she had been taking plant cuttings home. Emmy could hardly believe it. Yes, she had been taking cuttings home, but with permission. Nobody had said anything about the cuttings being in lieu of wages. At home, her husband, Jonathan, encouraged her to take the matter to God. Again, when you got an issue going on, take it to God. Don't worry, he said, we'll just pray about it. And they did, all weekend. On Monday morning, Emmy received a pleasant surprise. When she arrived at work, before she could even ask more questions about her pay, the director's wife walked over to her with a beautiful cake and a sincere apology. She said that there had been a big misunderstanding and Emmy would receive full pay. Relief and joy filled Emmy's heart. Once again, God had answered her prayers. She and her family would be able to keep their home amid the pandemic. Thank you for planning a generous 13th Sabbath offering that will help spread the hope that Emmy has in Jesus across Australia and the South Pacific Division.